Welcome to this event today. Thanks for trekking over here to M2, which certainly I've never heard of and didn't know how to get to. This is a joint event of the Castan Centre and the Law Students Society. I'm Marius Smith from the Castan Centre, and Liz Clark is here from the LSS, and she'll just thank our speakers at the end and close up things. As you know, this event today is focusing on human rights careers in a domestic context. What can you do that's sort of related to human rights in Australia? Before I start, I'm going to introduce all three of our guests. They'll speak one after the other, and then there'll be time for questions to all of them at the end. But before I start that, I'll just mention the other two events we're having in our Human Rights Careers series this week. So as I said, this is domestic. Wednesday lunchtime, back over in the Law Faculty in L5, we'll be having international careers in human rights. We'll have someone from World Vision, someone from Amnesty, and someone from Youth Ambassadors, the Australian volunteer program. And then that night we'll have we're sort of hosting a Red Cross event, which is about intern opportunities with the international criminal tribunals and courts. Okay. In order of speaking today, we have Kerin, Leonard, who is in the middle. Kerin is the manager of the legal unit at the Victorian Equal Opportunity and Human Rights Commission, a position that she started in August of this year. Kerin did her law degree up at ANU and then worked from 2002 until this year at the Attorney General's Department in a range of roles. I'll just name them. She was in the Criminal Justice Division, the International Human Rights section of the Office of International Law, and then as a Principal Advisor for the Strategic Policy and Reform Branch. She also had a little bit of a secondment there with the Federal Police. After that, we'll have Serry, who is closest to me. Anna is a senior lawyer at Pilch as part of their Victorian Bar Pro Bono scheme. She started there in 2009 as part of their bushfire group. She was a bushfire referral lawyer, and she managed their legal help for bushfires. She's now started, as I said, as a senior lawyer focusing on the Victorian Bar's Pro Bono scheme. Before coming to Pilch, she was in New York, where she was working as a corporate lawyer, and before that she did commercial litigation at ABL here in Melbourne. Anna incidentally did her degree at Melbourne Uni, and just to round it out, just a good kind of academic spread, we have Liz Wall, who did her degree at Monash. She is the Legal Policy Officer at the Victorian Department of Justice Human Rights Unit, where she's been since 2006. She got that job by going through the Victorian State Government Graduate Program and has since been worked in the Human Rights Unit. Liz is actually having a second career after starting as in marketing after doing an arts degree and jumping over to do a law degree just about 5 or 6 years ago. All right, so if I could first get you to welcome Kerin up.
As you heard, I'm brand new to my job in domestic human rights and brand new to Victoria. And while I'm still learning a lot about what my job entails and the work of the Commission, I at least come to you fresh from making the decision to go down this path and hopefully with lots of enthusiasm. But let me start by telling you a bit about the Commission and the role of my unit, the legal unit. The Commission is an independent statutory body that has responsibilities under 3 Victorian laws: the Equal Opportunity Act, the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities, and the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act. These laws protect the rights of people in Victoria by making discrimination, sexual harassment and religious vilification against the law. The Charter also ensures that government and public bodies consider human rights when making laws and providing services. Our role in the Commission is to advocate for these laws and to help Victorians understand their obligations and protections under them. Under the Equal Opportunity Act and the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act, the Commission also helps people resolve complaints and offers confidential, free and impartial dispute resolution services. So the legal unit as a whole supports the Commission in this work, and we also prepare the annual report to the Attorney General of the State of Human Rights in Victoria. We intervene in a number of court cases where charter issues are raised. We conduct legal policy work and help the development of policies in this area, and provide in-house legal services, so things like contract management, freedom of information, staffing issues from the legal side. We help with all of that as well, and that helps the Commission continue to run. The year ahead is a busy one for us. We're managing the Commission's implementation of the new Equal Opportunity Act, which includes a range of new roles and powers for us. And we're also supporting the Attorney General's 4-year review of the Human Rights Charter to see if there are any ways we can improve this instrument for Victorians. Our work varies a lot. In the last week, amongst other things, I've worked on implementation of the new Act. I met with the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal about pro bono services in their jurisdiction. We've been to the High Court where we had counsel arguing a social leave application in one of the cases we're a party to, and worked on things like contracts which facilitate the work of our trainers when they go out into Victoria and help people with their human rights work. I'm also quite fortunate that my team has a diverse range of skills and backgrounds to help us in our work. For example, we've got a legal policy officer whose background is in anthropology, and she's worked in the community sector before coming to the Commission. We've got a compliance officer whose background is in the governance of hospitals, and her perspectives really help us in our thinking about how we function as an organisation. We've got in-house lawyers who support the work of the organisation and bring a human rights perspective to our own compliance work. We have litigators who worked in the private sector in corporate regulation before coming to the Commission. We have lawyers who spent their entire career in the Commission and know our legislation inside out, and that's really valuable to have as well. I wanted to tell you a bit too about how I got to this position. I think there are many paths you can take. I left school quite interested in the world and in politics and history and public policy, and undertook an arts degree with majors in history and political science, as well as a law degree at the Australian National University. And I really thank goodness that it was a combined degree. Just between us, I spent every second week wanting to quit law. And this is not to discourage you in your legal studies, but I guess to let you know that there might be some light at the end of the tunnel if torts isn't your thing. At the end of uni, and after a great part-time job with the Canberra Museum and Gallery, I joined the graduate program at the Commonwealth Attorney General's Department. Largely attracted to their role in the law and justice sector, and also their central role in government, and saw that as a great learning opportunity to see how government worked. And over the next few years, I was able to move around quite a lot in the department. I tried new things and found a love for criminal justice along the way. I helped get the first international prisoner transferred back to Australia. I worked on extradition and mutual assistance, treaties and policy. I represented Australia in UN negotiations and advised the government on human rights law, both in their legislative program and as they developed policies. I was fortunate to work with some truly great people along the way, and learnt a lot from them, developing skills in writing and legal advice, how to give advice that's actually meaningful to non-lawyers. Learnt a lot about teamwork and managing big projects, and how to consult with the community and how to treat people decently, and just a lot about how government functions, and I think that's been an important thing I've been able to take into different roles. I also found my secondment to the Australian Federal Police to be really valuable, to look at how people make good decisions. They were really great at gathering advisors from different areas of expertise around them and making decisions. That was a great learning experience for me. I was also lucky to receive a scholarship from the Scots Australia Council to go and take a Masters at the University of Edinburgh. And such a luxury to have the year out to study and explore the world, and to be able to read a lot and work through issues and not just jump in to issues from the Australian government's perspective, which might just focus on a particular aspect of the law. So again, it was a really great opportunity that I'm very appreciative of. Some time back in the Attorney General's Department, I led a great team in the International Security Law Unit and learned about everything from weapons in Afghanistan to the orbit of satellites, and I even got to use my torts law. In more recent time, I've helped to set up the Strategic Policy Unit in the Commonwealth Department and moved there because I was keen to put my policy skills to use and learn a bit more about the corporate workings of the organisation. And finally, before coming down to Melbourne for this role, I just took some time off and I travelled and I had a good rest. So I think that's an important thing to schedule into your career as well. I've somewhat meandered through my career to date, and I suppose if there's one message I want to leave you with, is that there doesn't have to be a straight path. Sometimes I've worked in human rights and sometimes I haven't. But every single one of my roles and workplaces has taught me something and has opened up new opportunities. And I'm excited about the opportunities of the here and now for me, and to be working in domestic human rights in Victoria where it touches the community around me. And I really feel Victoria is a great place for this. We have some great laws to work with and a really engaged community, and I'm looking forward to the challenges ahead and happy to answer questions later.
Hi, my name is Liz. I'm a Legal Policy Officer in the Human Rights Unit at the Department of Justice. So just a little bit about what we do in the Human Rights Unit. When the Charter was introduced in 2006, they basically set up the Human Rights Unit to act as a support to implement the Charter and as a resource for government, because now everybody in government has obligations under the Charter. So we have a leading role in coordinating the implementation and the operation of the Charter across government. So the Commission has more of a focus in dealing with the community and trying to get a human rights culture happening across Victoria. We deal more specifically with the Victorian Public Service. That's one of our big jobs, is fostering that culture. There's only 6 of us in the unit, so that is kind of quite a big ask for us to change the whole culture of the public service. And one of the things we do as part of that is we run training and education for policy officers and for other business units in the Department of Justice. So, for example, all of our sheriffs, when they go through training, they do a unit on the Charter, and our training officer goes out there and gives them specific scenarios that they might come across and how the Charter impacts in their work. Another thing that the unit does is produce resources, like communication resources for government. So templates, statements of compatibility. We assist people in learning what the rights are and how they impact on their work, because they obviously have quite different impacts depending on what sort of an area you're working at in government. One of the big jobs that happened when the Charter first came in was that all of the legislation in Victoria was reviewed, Charter compatibility. We ran that project. The individual departments did the actual work, but we kind of had to coordinate that as a project, and that was pretty massive. The bulk of our work actually is assessing human rights impacts in bills and in policy when it comes in. So we look at we're supposed to look at every bill that's going up to Parliament and give people assistance in working out, well, where there may be an issue and how they may be able to improve compliance. So we love it when they come to us very, very early on, when it's still, just a policy that some minister wants to do, because then there's a chance to negotiate and maybe, have a bit more of an input and make changes. What happens quite often is that we get a 400-page bill that's going to Cabinet on Thursday, and I need you to look at it and tell me what human rights issues there are in it. And that's kind of quite challenging. So that does happen a lot, unfortunately, but we're working on that. So obviously statements of compatibility, when the requirement to have a statement of compatibility came in, that really is one of the key areas that we help with. So often we'll get people ringing us up that have never, this is their first time, they've ever had a bill going to Parliament, and we'll take them through that process of how you write a statement of compatibility. Other areas are the Scrutiny of Acts and Regulations Committee, SARC, as you probably all know, comment on each bill that goes through Parliament. Often one of the areas that they look at is the Charter, the Charter report, and often they'll write to the Minister and say, well, this wasn't in the Statement of Compatibility and we don't like the way, this is, give us more information. So we assist people in responding to those SARC comments as well. That's another area. And we also do a lot of advising the Attorney General on charter issues when they come up, when there's some litigation in the courts, other aspects that you might be familiar with. Recently there was a prisoner that wanted access to IVF when she was in prison. We would provide the attorney with advice on the charter in that situation. We also coordinate the Commission reporting for the Department of Justice, so we have to chase up all the business units and get them to give us their feedback. We also do a lot of communications sort of work, like we have a big Human Rights Week celebration each year, and we do all the work behind that, and we have a speaker program, and that's all part of trying to change the culture of public service and make it more sort of charter focused and human rights focused. So how I got to be in the unit was basically I was working in marketing and I turned 30 and I thought, what am I doing? This wasn't where I was supposed to be. So I went back and I did a law degree. My arts degree was actually in criminology. So I went back and did a law degree, and confession, I had no interest in human rights at all. It wasn't even on my radar. And my first human rights subject was a domestic human rights subject, and I basically did it, fit it into my timetable. I had a son in creche, and I thought, what can I do? And I loved it. So that got me onto doing an international human rights law subject, and that's really where my interest in this area started. So, and I think what Kerin was saying before is it's true, you can move in and out of human rights, and I think now in government in Victoria in particular, every government job has a human rights component now. Because of the Charter, everyone in government needs to know about human rights, and they need to understand it. So I think you can't really go wrong now studying human rights in Victoria. So I got into the VPS graduate program, which you probably all know a little bit about, but you basically rotate through 3 different areas of government. And I happened to be there just at the time the Human Rights Unit was being set up. So it was just fortuitous that was what was happening. I got moved into areas that have nothing in relation to that. So for instance, I did a turn at the walking and cycling branch at the Department of Transport, which was not really me, but it was very interesting. And then I just thought I'll just talk a little bit about the good stuff and the bad stuff, because it's not for everybody, and the stuff I love about it is that you get to look at bills and policy from all over. You look at stuff from Treasury, you look at fabulous things that are happening with bail and all kinds of, the variety is just terrific. There's some fascinating issues that come up, like I was talking before about the prisoner that wanted access to IVF, things that you kind of don't foresee could, come across your lap, come your way. There's a lot of variety. 1 minute you could be writing a speech for the Attorney General, the next you're looking for case studies for a brochure, or you're booking some speaker from the South African Constitutional Court. Huge variety. And lovely people. People that work in human rights are all lovely. They're all just, haven't come across anyone who isn't yet. Some of the bad stuff. Not only is it great that you get to look at bills from all over government, it's sometimes not so great, like a 400-page bill on the offshore drilling of petroleum, and you have to read it. Sometimes there's some not so lovely people from other areas of government who don't understand the Charter. They don't know why they have to do this. This is all too hard. It's just stopping me from what I want to do. And it's really difficult to try and talk to these people and negotiate and get your point of view across and try and make them understand the relevance to their work. There's people that just have a complete blank when it comes to the Charter, so we're working on them, but it does require negotiation skills. And sometimes some of the SARC reports, you know, they come out in these alert digests every month, and you sort of sit there and think, oh, I hope I didn't miss anything, oh, I hope they're not going to pick up on something. You know, there's a little bit of people get quite concerned about it because they do comment, and then you've got to work out the response to that. So often we'll go through and breathe a sigh of relief because there's nothing, there's none of our bills that have had a problem. So, and just quickly, just some other roles in government. Although we're specifically a human rights unit, you know, there's other areas where human rights are really being used a lot. The VGSOs, for example, do quite a lot now on human rights, both litigation and putting together. They do a lot of statements of compatibility for some of the really complex legislation that comes through, and their team seems to be growing all the time. So there are other opportunities there. And VGSO is another area where you can do a traineeship. It's not called articles anymore, but you can actually do that through them. So if that's more your bent, you know, there's other opportunities there as well. And even just throughout government, for example.
I think you do want to know what the VGSO is.
Oh, sorry, it's the Victorian Government Solicitor's Office. Okay, so they do a lot of government legal work. So they're basically like a solicitor for the government. And just, for example, we ran a human rights ambassador program where we got people from different business units across the Department of Justice to volunteer to be charter ambassadors and to come in for training and then go back to their business unit and, you know, pass that training on or do some other kind of awareness raising in their business unit. So I think you just have to look at state government now as just an open opportunity for human rights. There's, you know, it's more than just the obvious areas, and I think anybody who's going to work in policy really needs to have an understanding now of human rights. So happy to take questions at the end, and happy to come and talk if you want to come up later and have a chat. So thank you.
While we're talking about career concessions, I sometimes flirt with the idea of going into education and being a teacher, and I'm standing here somewhat anxious about talking to all of you, so I may need to rethink that one. But I guess it's kind of a good panel. We all come from quite different backgrounds. I'm a relative baby to this sector. I did my law and arts degree at Melbourne Uni. I was probably more interested in my arts degree than my law degree. But I enjoyed studying. I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to go and do. I knew that I wanted to get my articles, and at the time we were very much fed through a kind of corporate commercial track. I don't remember having the opportunity to have a seminar like this. Maybe that was my own fault. I wasn't as open to it, but I certainly don't remember having the breadth of opportunities. What I'm displaying for us was very much kind of corporate pipeline. So I took that. And I absolutely don't regret it. I got my articles at Block Legal in Melbourne, and I was a commercial litigator there. And after about 6 months after being admitted, I went over to New York and was working at a corporate firm there, where I was doing mergers and acquisitions and US securities law. So, but I made my way through it, and I've come out the other side. And the experiences were invaluable. It didn't prohibit me in any way, shape or form from entering or changing sectors or paths. In fact, the experience on my CV, I think, probably promoted me ahead of other people. Don't underestimate the skills that it can offer you, the just confidence in terms of basic legal skills, but the breadth of exposure you have to people doing different things in a practical sense is probably something that you don't necessarily get at university. So when I came back from New York, I was overworked. I worked quite hard while I was there, and was just looking for an absolute change, not really knowing where I wanted to head or what I wanted to do, but that I wanted to get into the community sector somehow. I didn't have any human rights studies behind me. I had volunteered at Women's Legal Service, one of the community legal centres, during articles, and that was the extent of what I had to offer the sector. And I think that the breadth of legal skills that I had, irrespective of the fact that it wasn't human rights focused, but that it showed I had the ability to pick up different skills quite quickly. I could transport skills from one to the other, was something that we viewed quite strongly. And so I started at Pilch at the beginning of last year, just after the bushfires. There was a new collaboration happening in the sector between Pilch and about 6 other legal service providers in the sector. And Pilch needed somebody to manage their involvement in that project, and that's how I started there. So does anyone know, and has anyone volunteered at Pilch or any of the community legal centres? No? So Pilch is a community legal centre. We don't do any casework ourselves. We facilitate pro bono legal assistance for marginalised and disadvantaged people in the community who can't otherwise access assistance, either because what they need is beyond the expertise of the community legal centre, or they don't qualify for legal aid. So we offer our services through a number of different mediums. We have, direct referral services which operate like a clinic. So we have the Homeless Persons Legal Clinic and also a Seniors Rights Legal Clinic, and they operate on a clinic model where people can drop into a service and get some advice on the spot. They'll see a private lawyer who has an arrangement with us to go and work on a pro bono basis. And then we have a basic referral service where we refer to our private law firms or barristers who work on a pro bono basis. So the role that Pilch plays in that really is to assess the client's needs, work out what their issue is, make sure they don't qualify for any other kind of assistance, package a brief, and then find either a firm or a barrister is appropriate to do the work. The group that I work for at Pilch is the Victorian Bar's pro bono scheme, so we manage the pro bono work that the Victorian Bar undertakes, so all of the barristers. So the work is really varied. We have kind of scheme criteria, so there is a means component, so you can't afford to pay for a lawyer yourself. There's a merit component, so is there a reasonable prospect of success that in your claim you're likely to succeed? And then we have this broad administration of justice element, so if you're helping the client in administration of justice, often if they're unrepresented, that's seems to kind of amount to that. There's not a public interest element necessarily, so we can offer our services quite broadly. So in terms of the work that comes across my desk, it's very diverse. I feel sometimes like I know lots of little things about lots of different things, and I'm not a specialist by any stretch. Sometimes I wish I was, but I think my history shows that I'm a bit of a juggler. You just have to kind of pick up things along the way, and that's sometimes an advantage and sometimes a disadvantage, but don't be afraid of it. So we see things from immigration matters where asylum seekers have been refused protection visas and they want to appeal that decision. We would refer that to a barrister to make sure that there is, in fact, grounds for a judicial review. We do a lot of work with the Homeless Persons Legal Clinic, where there are tenancy issues, so clients who live in public housing and have issues with the Director of Housing that their property is not well kept or they don't have a safe and secure roof over their heads. We would get barristers to appear for the clients down at Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. A whole breadth of things. I've got some employment matters at the moment where people have been they're making claims against their employers for unfair dismissal based on discrimination of all different kinds, defamation proceedings, the full kind of gamut. Some of the other Pilch schemes are a little less broad in scope, so We have the public interest scheme, which will only accept clients whose matters raise a broader public interest element. So we wouldn't ordinarily help someone in an individual dispute with, a neighbour or something. It needs to have some greater impact on the broader community for us to refer that. I guess so. That's the casework or the referral work that we do, and then we use that work to inform our broader policy and campaign work that Pilch undertakes. So if we identify needs in certain areas, so there's a huge spike in immigration matters, for example, we may think that we need to do some community legal education or some advocacy work, policy and law reform kind of work to address that need. I guess the general areas that we would look at in terms of policy and law reform work, issues around homelessness, issues around the access to the justice system, so people who English is a second language, what kind of interpreter services are there in the court systems at the moment? I think there's some advocacy work that needs to be done to kind of facilitate better services for people who need interpreters. That's just one example that is at the forefront of my mind today. And also the human rights framework. So, policy and campaign work around the human rights framework, which we've heard a lot about. And then general CLE type work. So, Pilch Connect, one of the other schemes that we have, which is a specialist service for not-for-profits, will often post a lot of CLEs around the regulatory framework for not-for-profits, and each of the schemes generally runs its own education workshops and stuff. So broad exposure, I think, at Pilch is probably the take home. And for me, if I can pass on any kind of tip, it would be not to be too concerned if you don't know or you're not sure, or it doesn't matter. If you know, great, go forth and pursue it, and that's wonderful, and that may change as well. But nothing prevents you getting in or changing direction at any point. I think what you need is just the enthusiasm to do it and be up for a bit of a challenge and be on your feet and just pick things up really quickly, and it would be wonderful. So that's all I have to say.
All right. I think that clock's a bit slow. We've got about 10 minutes for questions if anyone has any questions. Okay.
Just wondering if you know if there's any internship or work experience opportunities at the College of Commission or Pilch?
We do have interns. To be honest, I'm not quite sure how they get there. You'd be best contacting the human resources people there, but we do often have interns coming in doing research over summer, things like that. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities there, but you're probably best to check it out with the human resources team.
We certainly do have interns as well, and probably the best person to contact me. And we have a range of people who do it both during their university studies and practical legal training. So depending on what their requirements are, they might do slightly different things, but again, lots of research projects. And warning at the moment that we're quite pushed for space, so if people are happy to come and do things on a part-time basis, that's going to be easier to accommodate the next few months until we move to our new building next year.
For Pilch, we have two different programs that I guess support the lawyers. So we have a volunteer program where it's essentially uni students who answer our phones, and the roles there really are speaking to the clients, assessing what their needs are, taking some instructions and having a chat to the lawyers to determine where they actually fit, do they fit, and so managing that initial client interaction. And then there's always other work that attaches to that and research and so on. That's, I guess, probably the most relevant intake place for you guys. The other way that we get support is through a secondment program, but that really happens once people are at law firms and the law firms provide support to us because of resourcing. We have more work than us lawyers can do, so the support really comes from volunteers. I should probably have brought some more information about that. I didn't bring a card, but I'm happy to send through some information to you guys on how to get involved in the volunteer program because we're always looking for people. And I guess the other thing to say is if Pilch doesn't necessarily sound like the right kind of place for you, if you want to get some practical skills or just check out the sector in any way, there's so many community legal centres around the state, close to the uni. I know you guys have Monash Oakley here, but there's plenty of others that some are generalists, some are specialists, and always looking for enthusiastic volunteers. So there's lots of different ways you can get your feet dirty if you don't like it, you walk away. But it's great experience and very good practical exposure, so I would encourage it a lot.
We have a bunch of them on our website. Some way long-term to-do list to update that. There's quite a good list at the moment. We don't have the DOJ on that internship list, so that'll be something for me to add. But doing lots of volunteering, if you can during the law degree, I think it's a great way to work out what you might be interested in when you finish. Any other questions? Yeah.
This is probably to Anna because it's regarding fields and volunteer work. Do you have to be a penultimate or ultimate year student?
I know that there was, I would have to double check that. I don't think so because there are some students who have come back who were with us last year who have come back again this year. But I would need to have a look into that. I'm happy to leave my details or something. I should probably look into that before coming, but I'll have a chat to our volunteers coordinator and just find out what the criteria are. But and the intake's usually at the beginning of the year, or sorry, the beginning of the semester. Yeah. Sorry, it's down to that. I don't think so.
Any other questions? Just while you go.
I just was, Liz, you mentioned the VPS program, and I just wanted to know what that was.
Oh, okay. It's the Victorian Public Service Graduate Program,
Right.
and if you go to the Victorian Government Careers website, it tells you all about it in a lot of detail. So it's an incredibly rigorous screening interview process that goes for some days with psych tests and intelligence tests and all different stuff. But it's very rewarding because you get to look at different areas of government. So, I found it really, and you get a lot of training, and you get training the whole way through. So even if that's not where you want to end up, you can get some valuable stuff out of it. There's a lot more detail online.
And I think there's a sort of equivalent in the Commonwealth Public Service.
Yeah, that's right. The Victorian system sort of operates as a public service wide. Unfortunately, the Commonwealth departments divvy it up and put you through that process for each different department you might be interested in. I entered through a graduate program as well, and unfortunately it was in the days when they were only hiring 5 of us, and it was such a large program or process for the interviews, but also found it a really useful way of getting in. We still do a rotation system. Different departments work in slightly different ways, but the Attorney General's Department did 3 different rotations over a year within the organisation, and again, some of those you're going to be interested in, some of them we're not. Sort of subject matter choices, but found it a really great way to get to know the organisation. My first professional workplace and really learning a lot from working with different managers and seeing how different teams operate, and so fast tracks a lot of your learning in some of those bigger corporate ways as well, and it's a lot of more formal training in how government works, and you get taken up to Parliament House through how the committee system works and all of that. So a lot more help along the way rather than being left to your own devices to work it all out. So it's a good way to start. But that said, there are lots of other ways to get into public service work as well, and some valued people coming from outside that system
while I've got you on that, so there's definitely human rights unit in the AG's department, the Attorney General's department. There's a human rights unit in DFAT, I think, too, isn't there? In the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And we were, I think, is there one in defence?
They have a legal unit that those issues. And both in Department of Foreign Affairs has a human rights specific unit where international law unit gets involved in a lot of these issues as well. And at Attorney General's, there's both the domestic human rights area that looks after the equal opportunity and discrimination regime at the federal level, plus there's an international human rights area that applies to international law.
Just while I'm here, one more question. I've got one to Anna. Although I moved across from commercial law, into a different sector altogether, it always amazes me when anyone does it, and I can never work out how exactly it happened. So you came from, you kind of mentioned it quickly, but you came from a really solid, pure commercial law setting, and then get a job, basically as a public interest lawyer. When you sat down in the interview, what was it about your experience that you think put you ahead?
It's a good question. Actually, when I was offered the job by Matt, he did say that there was someone else who had more experience than I did in the sector. But I think because it was specifically for this project called Bushfire Legal Help, which was really the first time that all of the legal service providers in this sector sat around the same table and said we need to coordinate how we provide our services and just be united and unified and offer ourselves under one umbrella. And so it was just this new emerging thing that had to be done on the spot. And I think what I was able to show was, because of the diverse experience, even though I'd only had 2 years in each job, I was able to show that I could pick up the skill set quite quickly. I could transport skills that may not necessarily seem like they're going to be relevant, but actually be really user-friendly. Even simple things like, having office experience and dealing with clients or sitting in meetings and just understanding how negotiation works, even if you don't actually take part in it because you're a really junior lawyer on a corporate scale. A lot of those things I think are really undervalued and overlooked by us when we're students or junior career people, but you really can't underestimate some of those, I guess, softer skills that feed really well. So I think what I was actually able just to show was just an ability to pick up different things quite quickly, and that while I didn't have the expertise of the sector or hadn't given legal advice to people in a community legal centre, the skills are there, and it's just really how you transport them, really.
We might have time for one more question if anyone has any. Yes.
Actually, I'm an overseas student here, and my question is to you, since the Commission in Victoria is going to be renewed to establish this 4 years ago, my question is, do you have any possibility of going to have an exchange program between people working in the Victorian Commission to learn and benefit from the Commission set up in other countries, for example, in countries, Malaysia have independent human rights commissions, which was one of the requirements of the organization as well. So do you have some kind of exchange program to learn, and benefit from this experience?
We don't have any formal exchange program, no. It's a great idea. And I should also clarify that the Commission has been in existence a lot longer. So we've traditionally had a role with the equal opportunity laws in Victoria, which go back about 30 years. And more recently, our role has expanded to include the Human Rights Charter work, which has obviously given us a much broader focus to our human rights activities, which is great. We've certainly looked a lot at other jurisdictions in developing what we do, and over the next year, with the Charter Review and the new Equal Opportunity Act coming into force in Victoria as well, the Commission's looking at its functions and reviewing that, and we're always looking at comparative jurisdictions and how they handle matters. One of the things we're going to need to look at the Equal Opportunity Act is investigation powers, and that's a new thing for the Commission, and we're going to be looking around at what's best practice around the world in relation to that in human rights areas. But I think the exchanges is a good one to get people experience on the ground.
All right, I'll just bring this down to wrap up for us.
Yeah, well, on behalf of the Castan Centre and also of the Monash LSS, I'd just like to thank you all so much for coming and speaking to us today. Kerin, for telling us about all the opportunities at the Commission, and Liz to hear about government work that you can do, and also to Anna speaking about the opportunities at Pilch, and also what it's like working first at a commercial law firm and kind of making that changeover, which I think is something that a lot of people think about. And I think it's really great to hear that there are so many different ways you can get involved in human rights work, all across Victoria, and also different paths that you can take. So thank you. I've just got a small text about
Good luck.